is no exception. However, we need to remember that when something appears to be complex, it could simply be that we have not reduced it to its basic principles. So today we're going to discuss the 21 CFR Part 820, but we're going to do it in the context of lean documents and lean configuration. And what I hope you will see is that by reducing it further down into core principles, we have a very fresh and different perspective on what these things mean. So before we proceed, I wanted to just mention a couple of the companies that I'm associated with. I am a partner in Atsari Consulting, and we provide manufacturing engineering and quality systems expertise to medical device, biotechnology, and pharmaceutical clients. I am also the owner of Atsari Enterprises, a company that is dedicated to the development of lean configuration and lean documents, methodologies, and tools. We're going to start with some thought-provoking images from everyday life because it's very important that the logic and common sense of everyday life is something that we bring into the workplace, that we do not leave it at the coat closet. And for some reason, many people walk into a medical device facility and assume that logic has been suspended, it has been left outside. Nothing could be further from the truth. Logic is still there and common sense is still there, but somehow we have gotten lost in the sea of documentation and words and terms and elements, and we seem to have lost our way. So I'm hoping that by identifying what these are, we can find our way back. And one of the things is these thought-provoking images sort of are intended to jar our thinking to realize why these things are important. We're going to talk about the genesis of chaos and how we have arrived at this situation. Now, I thought that maybe after 30 years of being in this industry, that things would have cleaned themselves up. After all these experiences, large and small companies, I thought, well, some progress has been made. Well, here I am as a consultant for a Fortune 50 company, and if anything, things have gotten worse. In terms of the documentation, we keep not only repeating the same errors, but compounding them exponentially. So we really need to find a different way of thinking if we're going to find our way back. We're going to explore the web of cross-references, that very tangled web, and how that permeates through everything we do. And then we're going to start identifying key principles of lean documents, and these carry over to its very close cousin, lean configuration. And we're going to present an alternative to that tangled web of cross-references. Now, having laid the foundation of lean documents and lean configuration, we're then going to visit the various parts of the quality system regulation, but we're going to do it with a fresh set of eyes, and we're going to show how those elements, those lean elements and principles apply throughout this regulation and what that means. We're then going to show some lean document and lean configuration examples and then arrive at some conclusions. So first, let's have some thought-provoking images, and these are, as we go through our daily lives, generally when we go outside and interact with restaurants and streets and traffic, we encounter some situations. So one of these is when we go to a restaurant, the host hands us a menu and takes us to our seat. Now that menu, I like to think of that as a controlled document. Now you may say, wait a minute, in a medical device, controlled document is much stricter than that. Okay, fine, but let's talk about that menu. The owner has a vested interest in making sure that that menu is showing dishes that the kitchen is able to prepare. There's no point in having something there that they can't make. And I can assure you he doesn't want to have last year's prices on that menu because that's not good for his revenue stream. So I like to think of the menu as a single function document with two elements. The single function is that it allows you, the customer, to select your meal, right? That's all it's there for. Okay, and then the two elements are, well, it has a description of each dish, and then the price associated with that dish, right? So that makes sense. Now, I think we can all agree that something that does not belong on the menu would be a list of ingredients and instructions on how to prepare the meal. Unless this is a very strange restaurant, you would probably be worried if they gave you the recipe and how to prepare the meal. You'd start thinking, wait a minute, what did I sign up for here? What am I paying for? So the recipe is another control document, but that belongs in the kitchen. That has to do with what they need to do their job. It's another single function document. Its purpose is to instruct the cook and the kitchen staff on how to prepare the meal, right? And it has two elements. It has the ingredients and then the instructions on how to mix and prepare those ingredients. So again, two types of documents. They're both control documents, but they have two different functions and different elements. Are they related to each other? Of course they are. But one has to do with the process, and that's what the process is what's going on in the kitchen. The product is what you are being served. You are there to pay for the product. You're not there to pay for the cook's vacation, right? I'm sure the cook loves the vacation, but that's not what you're paying for. You're paying for what you are being served. How they do it, that's their issue, right? Okay, so that's an example from everyday life. Now, as we drive in or out of the restaurant, we encounter traffic signs. Now, traffic signs are another type of controlled document, even though we may not think of it as such, but it has a distinct shape and color, and it's there to convey instantaneous information, and usually that means stop. So I think we could appreciate the confusion that would happen if the stop signs came with detailed instructions. Now, most people, when they see that, they think, oh, that's going to create a problem at that intersection. Each driver, we can visualize it, right? Each driver's pulling up, they roll down their window, they squint, they read the instruction, and if it's any place like where I live, the driver behind them is already honking the horn and gesticulating, let's say, because they want to get up and they want to keep moving, and they want to read what's there. So it's creating a problem at that intersection for that traffic. And what I'm trying to point out is most of us only see a problem with a document in terms of how it affects us. In other words, our vision extends to the tip of our nose. But that is just the tip of the iceberg, because the problem is this stop sign, this document, is the product of a process. Think about that. It's the product of a process. Documents and stop signs do not just appear. They are put there as a result of something bigger. And in the case of stop signs, that something bigger is an entity called usually the Department of Traffic and Transportation. Now, I had to work, back in my college days, I worked in a summer job for the Metro Miami-Dade County Department of Traffic and Transportation. It was already a huge bureaucracy back then, and we won't talk about how long ago that was. But if you think that was a problem, now you burden them with keeping track of versions of stop signs at given intersections, and you might as well shut them down. They're not going to get